Okay, how often have you excitedly packed for a trip and you envision yourself looking so dang cute, and then you show up to this iconic place, you take some photos, you look back at the photos, and you realize, I really, really didn't look cute. It's so disappointing when you find out that the outfits you've been wearing are not flattering you, you look out of place, or you just don't look like yourself. So in today's video, I am giving you 5 things to avoid wearing the next time you're on a trip. Welcome, my name is Priska Jordan, and I make videos for women who value their personal style over fashion. When it comes to travel style, on a scale of Instagram-worthy outfits to sweatpants, I'm somewhere in the middle. I value comfort, but I also like to jazz it up a little when I'm traveling. But today's video is reserved for my more unfortunate outfits because I think we can all learn from my mistakes. The first clothing piece you might want to avoid is stilettos. So there we were in Central Park on a brisk fall day, a perfect day, some might say, to go on a bike ride, except for I was wearing stiletto booties. And I'm talking about like tiny heel stiletto, 5-inch heel booties. Why was I wearing stilettos in New York City, you might ask? Because I thought that's what everybody who was a local did. False. Very false. You walk everywhere in New York City or you take the subway. Either way, stilettos are not your main walking shoe. So while those stiletto booties were super chic, they were also super impractical. Did I let that stop me from riding a bicycle? No, I did not. I rode a bicycle through Central Park in 5-inch stilettos. That was like a 0 out of 10 recommend. It was highly dangerous at some points, but mainly what I learned from that is if it's so chic you can't walk in it, it's really not that chic. And that goes for travel outfits or everyday outfits. The amount of times it's actually appropriate to wear stiletto heels is so low, so hopefully that's not a huge part of your shoe wardrobe, unless you work in an office and like you're just never on your feet and whatever. I used to work corporate finance and I understood the power behind wearing stiletto heels. But when you're traveling, the effect of wearing a stiletto heel is usually not the best. Usually you look like you're either hobbling around because of the pain or the discomfort, or you're like twisting your ankle off a sidewalk. Either way, it's not a super chic vibe. Now there's always an exception to the rule, and in this case I would say wear stiletto heels while you're traveling if you are going to a red carpet, or you're at a nightclub, or you're in Vegas, or you're at a red carpet at a nightclub in Vegas. Then wear your stilettos. But if you're traveling to a city or a rural place where you want to explore and adventure and see what's going on, then you don't want to wear stilettos. But I'm not just here to give you problems, here's a solution. You can alternatively wear block heels if you need to wear a heel. You can wear a low heel, a mid heel instead of a high heel. Then you have a little bit of dressiness without the impracticality of a tiny little stiletto. Or you can wear wedges, especially like in the summer. I feel like wedges bring a more elevated but still casual vibe. The next piece I recommend you avoid when you're traveling is also in the footwear category. So there I was on Bourbon Street in New Orleans on a hot summer day. We won't discuss the smell because I'm from Louisiana and we don't talk about it. But on Bourbon Street, there are people who commit acts that would be illegal in most other cities. But the most tolerable one, I think, is walking around with a bevy in hand. And other things happen, you know, when you mix alcohol with vacationers. And it stinks. And it stinks because of what's on the ground. So wearing sandals in a dirty city is very much not recommended. However, there are alternatives to flat sandals where your feet are going to just absorb all that yummy streetness. So another option that I tend to choose more often now when visiting New Orleans is sneakers. And I don't mean like your black Nikes you wear to the gym. I mean cool sneakers that have a little bit of personality and match most of your wardrobe. Now, there's this idea that you have to have every piece of clothing in every color, otherwise it'll be really hard to match your clothing, and that is such a lie. I have mostly, I would say, pinks, reds, and purples in my wardrobe. I recently bought some New Balance 327s that I've been loving, especially for travel, because they're cute, they're comfortable, they're stylish, and they go with a lot of my wardrobe. So instead of thinking like you have to do a neutral shoe because you have colorful outfits, maybe work on a more tonal look by choosing a sneaker colorway that goes with the outfits you're going to wear. Or you can just wear the basic white sneaker that will certainly match most of your things, but they are going to get pretty dirty. So just know that there are other options to wear than flat sandals that are going to get dirty when you're walking around a downtown area. So there I was on a beautiful morning in New York City, and we decided to walk over the Brooklyn Bridge, which is just iconic, right? I mean, if you see that on a movie, then you instantly know where you are. And while that place is iconic, my outfit certainly wasn't. I would say as a whole, athleisure while you're traveling is not a vibe. Unless you're an athlete, and then it makes perfect sense. The more you travel, especially internationally, you realize that it's very American to wear athleisure when you travel. Leggings is such an American thing. And I know we can easily think, well, it's the most comfortable thing. And you know what? At the airport, on the airplane, leggings, do it. I do it. But when you're at iconic spots, when you're in cities, when you're traveling to places where people are going to work and dressing up for work, like you stand out when you wear athleisure. But I didn't realize this was several years ago. So we're on the Brooklyn Bridge. I'm wearing my athleisure and I think I look so cute. And I don't look terrible. Like, let's be honest, this is not a sweatshirt and sweatpants. But afterwards, we went to this brunch restaurant that one of my friends who lived in New York told me about. And she's like, this is the place you want to go. Take cute pictures. The food's amazing. We show up to the brunch restaurant. The guy opens the door and stands in the doorway, wouldn't let us in. And he says, can I help you? And I said, yeah, we'd like a table for two for brunch. And he looked me up and down, just like that. I can't even make his face. He looked me up and down and said, we're booked. He flat out refused to let us in his restaurant because of what I was wearing. That was the last day I've ever touristed in athletic wear. I will never do it again, not just because that made me feel so stupid, but because it just doesn't look good. So what's a better alternative? Well, nowadays it seems like people are more casual, but it's an elevated casual. It's a mixture of pieces that are sort of like workwear, trousers, button downs, nice belts, and stylish sneakers. So I think if you're trying to go for a more casual look, like if you're walking the Brooklyn Bridge or walking around New York City all day and you cannot wear high heel boots all day, then a better idea is stylish sneakers and some stretchy jeans. If your jeans have 1, 2, or even 3% spandex in them, they're going to be much more stretchy and comfortable like your leggings, but definitely tolerable to wear all day. If you're traveling in cooler weather, then flat boots that are like a shiny leather, I think that is a really good alternative, and again, worn with stretchy jeans. Before I give you the last two pieces of clothing to avoid when you're traveling, I want to get your feedback. So I'm thinking about making this travel outfit stories into a series, and I'm considering whether to do a Europe edition or an Asia edition next. So let me know which one you'd be interested. I can share some of my travel stories from touristing through Europe or Asia. Let me know down in the comments. So there I was on a spring day in Las Vegas where it, and I quote from my Uber driver,
only rains 3 days out of the whole year.
I was on a 5-day vacation in Las Vegas and it rained 3 of those days. The 3 days that it rains out of the year was during my vacation. So I was packed so inappropriately because with the rain came much cooler temperatures. However, there's a lot of shopping in Las Vegas on the Strip, so I was able to supplement my wardrobe to make it a little bit more appropriate for the weather. But if you're not lucky enough to be traveling to a place that has a great shopping, then that might be a problem. The mistake when traveling to a new climate is assuming that the temperature is the weather. Instead, buffer your expectations up and down by several degrees in case the humidity makes a difference, the sunshine, or even if the weather changes at the last minute. Another tip I've implemented since this Vegas trip is to pack a jacket that I can wear on the airplane or in the car if I'm driving somewhere, and also with my outfit, something that is pretty neutral and basic that'll go with everything. Although I haven't always used the extra jacket on a trip, it's certainly been more helpful in more important times than not. My last tip is going to be a bit controversial, so brace yourself. So there I was gallivanting around the exciting city of Chicago for the first time in my life. Chicago actually has a long history in my mind because it has a lot of family history for us. When my mother immigrated, she lived in Chicago. She met my father who had lived there his whole life. And there's just so many stories I hear in my family about Chicago. On top of that, I was raised as a Bears fan, so I always dreamt about going to Chicago and specifically to Soldier Field. So when we got there, I booked a tour of Soldier Field and it was amazing. I saw Brian Urlacher's jersey. I saw the inner wall and outer wall of what used to be Soldier Field over 100 years ago. And we even got to step foot on the field that I have watched on TV since I was in the womb. When I look back at the photos, I realized I didn't look like myself because I was wearing this like masculine button-down top with pinstripes that looked like it could belong to my husband, actually. It was just so not me. Like, I'm much more feminine and flirty and colorful with my style, and it just felt super generic. My mistake there was trying to dress like the locals. There's this website called The Every Girl that I like to browse, and it's based in Chicago. They had an article that year about what people are wearing this summer in Chicago. So that's what I wore. I wore what the locals were wearing, but then I just didn't feel like myself. So while I wouldn't recommend wearing my Florida sundresses in Chicago in the winter, I think there is a way to sort of harmonize your style and the place that you're going to. There's not only two options. There's not just the option of what is everyone there wearing, I'll copy it, and what am I going to wear no matter where I am. I think there's a middle ground of what would I wear if I was really embodying my style, my personality through clothing in a different location. By harmonizing your personal style with the destination you're going to feel more comfortable because you'll feel like yourself, but also still appropriate for the climate or the context of where you're going to. Now, I just made a video about the common denominators in my best outfits and just some tips that we can learn to apply to all outfits to make them stellar. So if you want to watch that, click this link right here. And I will see you next week with a brand new video, but until then, take care.